It's always so zoomed in, and I don't really understand why. And I have to sneeze. Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Oh my god, if I keep sneezing, this is gonna be rough. I have another scary story for you guys, and I have another sneeze for you guys. It's weird because I put all of my burps in all of my videos, or if I cough or whatever, but I feel weird putting a sneeze. I don't know why. I just feel like that's not something that you keep in a video, you know? But I'm sniffly today. Right now I'm in the process of pre-recording for my Arizona trip, so I've been filming a lot of videos, so I really have nothing to ramble about. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. A lot of you get disappointed when I don't have these super long intros, but I think we're just gonna get right into the story. When you're seeing this, I'm actually in Arizona, so the past 2 weeks I've only had 2 videos, but once I get back, I think I come back on the 4th of January. Videos will go back to normal, so I'll have 3 a week. Hopefully. I know I said I wasn't promising a schedule, but like I'm doing really good, so we're gonna do 3. But this story is called, I think the hospital I work for is experimenting on patients. I work in a small town hospital. The closest thing to us is a Walmart, a prison, and endless miles of farmland. A lot of the patients I get come from at least 30 minutes out, but being that we're the only hospital around in a 2-hour distance, both ways, we're usually the only viable option. Of course, being so small, we don't do major traumas, but we do have a helipad and life flight available to us. Most of our patients come in for flu symptoms, drug issues, and the occasional ortho patient who has a scheduled surgery. And every so often we get a prisoner or 2. Other than that, it's pretty much consistent. I work in the ICU unit of the hospital. It's only a 12-patient bed ICU, so it's not like something you'd imagine in a big city or in Grey's Anatomy. The ICU is located on the 2nd floor. Also on the 2nd floor is the PCU wing, for people who are cleared from ICU but still need to be heavily monitored, a cardiac wing, and a dialysis clinic. There are a total of 3 floors, but the 3rd floor never got completely built. The construction started in the 70s on the 3rd floor, but the hospital went through a major lawsuit and ultimately had to choose between the 3rd floor and keeping the hospital afloat. The construction took a back seat and it never picked back up. I had heard many stories about the 3rd floor, folklore, rumors, whatever you would call it, mostly about it being a dead zone, dangerous wires, things you could easily fall over, unfinished walls. Nothing ever really alarmed me about it other than we had so much space we could use for our patients that we weren't even trying to inhabit, but that's neither here nor there. There's an employee elevator that you have to have access to. I usually use it because the regular one is full of germs. The first couple times I got on, I realized there is, in fact, a 3rd floor option. It requires you to swipe your badge after you push it, and only a few people have clearance, I'm told. So in the 2 years I've worked here, I've never tried. I work 12-hour shifts 3 days a week, the standard schedule for most nurses. The other morning I arrived early and sat in my car drinking coffee. I'm on the East Coast, so by 6 a.m. it's still dark this time of year. I parked in front of the hospital and was looking on the 2nd floor trying to count how many room lights were on to guess what our census was and how busy my shift would be when I noticed something. The 3rd floor, which is always dark, had a light on. It's pitch black outside and the side I park on isn't very well lit, so even with my bad eyes, I know the light was coming from the 3rd floor. I watch it for a while and see nothing, so I started to excuse it as somebody with clearance went up there to fix something, a leak, something of that sort. Work was grueling and mentally draining, but eventually my 12-hour day came to an end. I got in, and as I'm starting the car, I remember the light and look up. The light is off now. I go home, have a whiskey, walk my dog, watch some stupid reality TV, and call it a night. That night, I had a weird dream about being trapped on the abandoned 3rd floor. I dreamt that I was walking towards the source of the light, and I could hear moaning. In my dream, I wasn't scared. I was just trying to get to the room in fear a patient might be in trouble. I approach the room, and right before I turn the corner, my alarm goes off. I drink a 16-ounce coffee on the way to work while listening to a podcast. I'm exhausted, and even though I got a solid 8 hours of sleep, I feel like I slept none. I pull into the parking lot early, like I usually do, to finish my coffee and listen to my podcast. I park in the same spot every time. I look up, and I see this time a TV is on. The 1st and 2nd floor always have TVs on because it's a hospital. Patients don't sleep here. But there's a TV on the 3rd floor, in a room. I've been told there was no working electricity on the 3rd floor, so if there aren't even lights, who would mount and install a TV, and how? I stare at it for what seems like forever, and then eventually get out of my car and head in. About halfway through my shift, I take my lunch. My coworker and I head into the employee lounge, and I toss my sad frozen lasagna dinner into the microwave and sit down for the 5 minutes it takes to cook. I scroll through my Facebook while I wait, and my coworker Sheena sits down. "Are you not eating today?" Sheena asks as she sits down across from me with her sub and Diet Coke. "Yeah, I just have to wait my entire break for it to heat up, and then I plan on having it in the car on the ride home." She laughs. "Want some of my sub? I probably won't eat it all." She scoots her sandwich towards me. "No thanks, I appreciate that though. It looks good." She smiled and took a bite. "Hey Sheena, can I ask you something?" She looks up and nods with a mouthful. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen or heard about anything weird happening upstairs? Upstairs? She asks with a mouthful and a confused face. Yeah, the 3rd floor. It's just, I've seen some lights up there before and one time a TV. I felt embarrassed as soon as I said it. I feared she'd think I was crazy or that I was finally hitting my breaking point as a nurse. She rubbed her face with the back of her sleeve and finished chewing. What do you mean a TV? Like a TV sitting in a window or something? No, it was mounted and on, like in the patient's rooms. Why would there be a TV up there? Is there even electricity up there? I don't think so. I'd been told that before, that there wasn't. But how would the lights in the TV be explained though? She looked down at her food for a while, not taking a bite. I've heard a lot of stories about the 3rd floor, Cassie. A lot. And I was sure she had. Sheena had been there for 17 years. She was much older than me and far more experienced. Several people have quit because of the 3rd floor. What do you mean? I asked as I leaned forward. I mean, weird shit happens here, and weirder shit has happened up there. I've worked here for almost 2 years and never seen anything. I mean, yeah, I've heard some weird stories and it's haunted and shit, but I've never seen anything. Well, until now, I guess. You only see if they want you to see it, she said. They? What do you mean if... I was cut off by a code being called over the intercom. We both jumped up and ran to the room where the code was being called. We worked tirelessly on the patient, but ultimately ended up losing them. The rest of the shift was heavy, and given that we lost a patient, one whom we were all fond of, the topic got lost in the day. A few hours later, I was in the locker room, changing out of my dirty scrubs and back into my civilian clothes, when I heard a huge bang above me, like someone dropping something heavy. I looked up. Nothing's above us, though, I thought to myself. I got into the elevator, and for the first time in my 2 years of employment, a thought popped into my head. I hit 3. A black box beeped and flashed a red light. I swiped my card in front of it, and it beeped once more and turned green. Then I felt the elevator go up. My stomach dropped. I was really going up. It was nighttime and dark. I knew when the doors opened, I would be greeted with pitch black. What if I couldn't get it to close back? What if I got stuck on the 3rd floor? Who were they Sheena was referring to? The elevator stopped. The pause between it stopping and opening felt like a lifetime. Then the doors opened. I was met with a long, dark hallway. On the end was a room with a light on. There was music coming from the room. I felt frozen. I didn't know what to do. I'd come this far, though. What if a patient had got lost up here? What if someone needed my help? Could someone be squatting up here? I stepped off. I was going to investigate. As scared as I was, I made up my mind. I knew the song that was playing. My grandma used to play it for me all the time. She'd say, "My brown-eyed girl, this is for you." We would dance and laugh. I loved the song as a child. I always thought of her. The song made me happy, but now felt like the times when I would feel joy from this song were gone. I started down the hall. I had my phone in my hand ready to call for help. I felt stupid. I got to the room and took a deep breath before I walked in, readying myself. The room was beautiful, almost like a miniature ballroom. It was so fancy and clean, so misplaced. To the right of me was this beautiful cherry wood end table. On it was a record player, the source of the music. Suddenly there was a bang down the hall and I snapped back to reality. My adrenaline kicked in and I grabbed my pocket knife that I always kept in my purse. "Hello?" I call out in a shaky voice. I peeked my head down the hall and I saw nothing, but then again it was dark, so how could I have seen anything? The record started to skip. I walked over to it and fixed the needle and it corrected itself. For a moment, I forgot about the sound from the hall. I was distracted by a filing cabinet on the far side of the room. It was old and dinged up and didn't look like it belonged in a room like this. I walked over to it and pulled out a drawer. There were patient files. At first, I hadn't thought much about it. Maybe they were patients that had died or had been seen several years prior. Maybe it was just storage for old records. I pulled one out and dusted it off. The name on it was Shelley Hardy. I opened it up. The first page read, "Subject was administered experiment number 431." And then it read as a log or a diary entry. September 9th, 1973, day 1. Hardy has been placed in solitary confinement. She has been denied her medication for 3 days now. Hardy shows signs of manic episodes and paranoia. I read on. September 20th, 1973, day 2. Hardy has begged for medication. She's in full-blown detox from lack of medication. She's violent. We chained her to the wall and threatened to take away her meals if she was not in compliance with the experiment. Hardy was not cooperative. Food privileges taken away. What the fuck, I thought to myself. What kind of shit is this? I didn't want to read anymore. I wanted to get out of there. I started to close the file and a picture fell out and slid almost completely under the filing cabinet. I bent down to get it and turned it over as I raised back up. It was a picture of Shelly's corpse. She was in a room with blood covering every square inch of the walls. Her eyes were wide open and had a look of torment. She had the words "Save me" carved into her skin, on her arms, on her legs, on her torso, on her face, everywhere. I dropped the picture and the file and ran like I never had before. I got to the elevator and hit the closed door button so hard I broke my nail. The doors finally closed and I got down to the ground floor. I ran to my car and got in. I locked the door and sat there for a minute, trying to catch my breath and trying to process what I just discovered. I looked up and the light from the room I had just occupied bled into the hallway and reflected on the room above my car. Just enough light came in for me to clearly see the words "Save me" written in red. The drive home was a blur. I laid in bed and kept the light on that night. As I tried to drift off, I thought about how scared I was, how confusing this all was. But I thought about Shelly and how it must have been so much more terrifying for her. I made a promise to Shelly that night. I was going back, and I was gonna find out who did this to her. And I'm gonna be really mean and leave you guys on a cliffhanger. There's a couple more parts to the story, but I wanna make sure that you guys like it before I continue it. I'm gonna be honest, I totally read this before I started filming. Like, usually I'll skim them just to make sure that the story's interesting, but I read this one for the most part, so I kind of already knew what was gonna happen, so I'm not really surprised or anything. I haven't read anything past this first part, so like, I have no idea what's gonna happen, and honestly, I'm as curious as you guys probably are. So if you want me to continue, let me know. If you guys have any other stories that you want me to read, please send them to me. I will have my email written down below. You can either send them to that or on social media. I say this every single video. You guys know the drill by now. But I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I was thinking that my hair could maybe match the pink on my sweater, but then when I started filming, I was like, am I dumb? My hair's purple. It's like a burgundy color, but I don't know. I thought it would be a cool idea if it like kind of matched. It kind of matches my pillow. No, it doesn't. I'm blind. Okay, see ya.